Okay, now we can see how gods are formed here by just grabbing one out of a group. I liked this one because, ironically, this one actually says it has Michael Jordan as a reference. So I thought I'd pick up and see what Michael Jordan had to do with it. By the way, not the same person. So Gibel is the god of fire, and he's supposed to be the son of On and Ki, or the primordials that came here. And other people have it as On and Shala, one of his concubines, and I believe that's probably the actual effect. Also, they have Iskar and Shala, having him as a kid at a later date. But this is whenever you impart fire to man, just like it's done in all the myths and everything here. But so you look up this guy, and he's also known as Nuska. We'll look at that in just a second. But here he is shown to have broad wisdom, and that his mind is so vast that all the gods and all of them cannot fathom it in the Enuma Elish. And it's because by that time they really are worshiping fire, but it's a part of their life. But you have to see that they're looking at things metaphorically. Whenever they talk about cooking food in water and having to boil it, they say that you take Ea, Enki, the god of water, and by using Gibel, you create, until the point you create steam, and then you add in your meat and everything off of it. So these gods are helping you cook your food. These gods are this, these gods are that. Well, it's because they had a symbolism back then that they would just put the symbol of fire whenever they're talking about God, just like they would use the symbol for On when they talked about heaven. So now Gibel is later in the Akkadian form known as Nusku, and but it's the same. Also, the other people have Giru as his name. Formerly he was Gibel back in the Sumerian times, but this is the now god of fire, where he was just the guy that had fire and knew he wasn't a god in Sumerians pretty much, but he was the one that harnessed it for him. He was the blacksmith of them. He did all these other things. So by a couple of thousand years later, you can tell when people start a fire, they say this thing to Gibel after they start the fire. Whenever they do a chant to Gibel while they're trying to start it, so he'll help them start the fire, type of thing. And so this is where the four elements come about, I guess, where you get earth and water and air and wind and fire that make everything. And they give a lot of importance to this guy because they know fire had a lot to do everything. Fire melts the rocks. Fire was the lava that started everything on the planet a long time ago. They can tell the mountains and everything out of it. They're smart enough to detect all these things, even though they lost the knowledge after the flood. No one told them the truth and reality of everything, but they're working their way through it. And amazingly, these people, Bronze Age, are working their way through it quite well. But they have this fire god, and he's, you know, his lineage is lit right there, but he was also the original of the name of light. He gives you light. Of course, fire gives you light at night times and things like that. So it really helps out. He's later you can equate these guys, Nusku and Gibil, with actually the fire gods and the people that impart fire, but also with Hephaestus and the blacksmith gods. Gibil was a blacksmith in himself. And interestingly, there's a remedy that they have whenever people have what the wheezing, the wind throat, the scratchy wind throat. And when you have scratchy wind throat, you want to use Nuska along with Ea standing beside him, the god of water. And whenever you heat it up and it eventually creates steam, you breathe that in. But you have to put certain herbs they mention in the water. And then you're supposed to breathe that. It's like Vicks vapor rub and stuff. So it's a version of having gods um, uh, involved in everything that they do. And then, of course, fire and this, bring this and this and that, and it just starts adding up for these people. So, now it becomes a god type thing. And there's temples and things that are for Nazca Guru, but they're found throughout Babylonian Assyria. But it's really more of a symbolic type thing, and they call on him whenever they light the fire to the altar. Now, later, he's used in the altars that they burn bodies to and present to heaven, so he always holds importance as the fire god. Yeah, so this is how gods are created in this mythos here. But it's not by them that do this, it's by later people still calling upon this person that used to be a blacksmith for this group of people that was revered to the point people still have a hard time making, great weapons and things like that. One place that he does show up, though, to show that somebody gives reverence, they call upon the fact that he is of the genealogy or a direct descendant of him, is the 1200 BC or 12th century BC king of Assyria that's on the stela in the king's list is Mutakil Nusku, which means he who Nusku endows with confidence. And so you look and you find information about this guy, and he was a great metal worker, but also in his fights with other tribes, he would set the place on fire and burn it up, and also chase people through things. And he also would burn his crops at the end of seasons and things too. And one of the first people to really have this kick in and do it correctly. He knew how to do that. So anyhow, that's how fire becomes a god.